guys.
Hi guys.
Hey.
Welcome to our last video. We are so excited that you've done so well so far, and we are excited to show you the last part of our video series for chapter 1 and 2. We're going to talk about geography, and we're going to talk about how geographers study geography and the tools that they use. And then we're going to talk about your place in the world. How do you fit in with all this geography, and why does it matter for us? We're going to talk about that. So if you guys could stay with us just a little bit longer, pay close attention, because we're going to have a summative coming up on Monday, and this is our last one. And last but not least, please try not to forget to finish that hot question. It is the most important part. We want to know your thoughts. We want to know what you're thinking, and we want to know how we can help you think about bigger thoughts and bigger places and find out where you belong in this world. So stay with us, and we'll talk to you soon.
Oh, hello Wildcats. Welcome back. This is Mr. Green. I'm going to talk to you guys about Chapter 2, Section 1. So I want you guys to make sure you're on the right page. You should be on page 14, which is where Chapter 2, Section 1 begins. It looks like this. And to start it off, we're going to be working on the first question. It's the higher order thinking question at the top of the page. And this question is asking, how do we dress differently for winter in Florida than if we lived in New York? And why? Now think about it. A lot of you guys may have traveled to the north during the holidays, maybe to New York City or to visit family in Massachusetts or something like that. You probably traveled up north on some level, sometime during the winter. Think about that experience. Getting on the plane in Florida, you're probably dressed a certain way. Then you get off the plane up north somewhere. In the winter, it's probably a little bit different. I want you to think about, why is that? Think about geography. Think about what we've talked about so far, or your experiences so far. Why do you think you would dress differently in Florida than if you were living in New York during the winter? Why would you dress differently? Go ahead and pause right here if you need to. Respond to that question, and we're going to move on after that. Thank you.
Miss Lewis back. Okay, so now that you've finished your higher order thinking question, let's go over how we display the Earth's surface. Okay, first up, we're going to be talking about lines of latitude. Okay, these are horizontal lines that circle the Earth that are parallel to the equator. Okay, so these lines go left to right. Those are horizontal lines that are parallel, meaning they never touch, to the equator. Now, our equator is our primary line of latitude. Off on the side somewhere of your notes, off to the side of latitude, please write that the primary line of latitude is the equator. That is such an important thing to know. Now, let's take a look at what that would look like on the Earth's surface. Okay, so here you see these lines running horizontally. Those are our lines of latitude. Okay, now one way of thinking of this, oops, Miss Lewis messed up. Let's erase that. My bad. Okay, one way of remembering this is lat is flat. Okay? So, these lines running horizontally left to right are flat lines. Okay, so looking at your notes, it says that you guys are going to be writing your own definition of what latitude means, drawing it, so use my example here, and then you're also going to come up with some creative way to remember latitude and the flat lines. Okay, it could be a rhyme, it could be a saying, it could be an acronym, something that latitude may stand for to you. And then when you guys come back in class, we're going to do a little share and see who comes up with the most creative thing. Okay, so I want you to pause the video. Go ahead and take the time to draw, write your own definition, and come up with a creative saying, and then we'll talk about lines of longitude. All right, now that we've talked about lines of latitude, let's talk about lines of longitude. Okay, I did that for a reason. So, lines of longitude are imaginary lines that circle the Earth from north to south, measuring distance east to west. Okay, I know that sounds a little silly, but they run north to south, but they measure east to west, okay? So our primary line of longitude is that prime meridian. So somewhere off to the side, next to longitude, right, primary line of longitude is the prime meridian, okay? So we talked about latitude being parallel. These are going to be parallel also in that they run north and south. Okay? What does that look like on our Earth's surface? Here we go. Remember I said longitude? So look, we have these long lines running north and south. Those are our lines of longitude. So remember, longitude. Okay? Did I spell that right? Nope. Just ignore that I, guys. Okay, so same thing like you did last time for latitude. I want you to write in your own definition what longitude is. Go ahead and draw what that might look like, and then again, come up with a fun saying. Once you've done that, go ahead and come back and we'll talk about hemispheres. All right, guys, last but not least for displaying the Earth's surface, we have the hemisphere. So a half sphere is used to refer to one half of the Earth when divided into north, south, east, and west. What I want you to do on your paper is I want you to circle the word hemi. And hemi means half. So on your paper, I want you to circle the word hemi, and then above it, write the number 1/2. Okay, so you know that hemi means half. And then for sphere, this is a circle. So draw a little sphere above that. So half circle, half sphere. Okay, now what does that look like if we're looking at the Earth's surface? So here on the left, you will see that the Earth is divided into the northern hemisphere and the southern hemisphere. Okay, those are two half spheres. Next thing you will see is that the Earth is also divided into the western hemisphere and the eastern hemisphere. Okay, we have 4 spheres: northern, southern, western, and eastern. Okay, on your notes, I want you to go ahead and write your own definition for hemisphere. Go ahead and draw what that might look like. You also can use my example, and then come up with some sort of way creatively to remember a hemisphere. I gave you one example. Maybe you can come up with something better. Consider that a challenge.
Hi guys, Ms. Hodges here. We're going to talk about the 5 characteristics of geography, 5 themes of geography. Geographers break down things into 5 different categories where we can look at them, and one of them is region. When we're talking about regions, we're talking about a place that has the same characteristics. So along the beach, all those would be the same. In the mountains, all those would be the same. The desert region, a beach region. So that's what we're talking about. The second thing that they talk about is location, the exact place that it is, right where it's located on the map, the exact latitude and longitude lines that we talked about earlier. Then there's also the place. What kind of physical characteristics and things are located around it? That's what the place looks like. Just what do you see? What does it look like? Then we talk about how geographers talk about how people move around within that. What is their mode of transportation? How do things move around? How do you get ideas from one place to another? So it doesn't necessarily have to be just people moving. It could be an idea all up and down the Silk Road, or trade, how ideas move from one place to the next. And the last way that geographers talk about land is through interaction. And this is with people interacting with each other, or it could be the way people interact with their environment. We eat a lot of seafood around here because we live near the sea and there's a lot of shrimp available. And so here, our interaction with our environment is we eat a lot of seafood. So how do we interact with each other? And then how do you interact with your environment? And so those are the 5 themes of geography. We'll talk a little bit more about these in class, but for now, just know there are 5 ways to talk about geography.
One of the most important things we can do when studying geography, and something we'll do for every culture we study this year, is take a look at how the people and the environment interact and the effect that they have on each other. And there's 6 big essential elements or questions that we ask when we're looking at pretty much anywhere in the world, and we're seeing how and why people live there. The first is, how can we better understand how and why people, places, and environments interact? We need to understand just where something is. On a map, using latitude and longitude, where can we find this? What continent is it on? Is it near any modern day countries that we might be aware of? We also need to ask what makes it special for places and regions. What makes this unique? So for example, here in Florida, we're well known for our beaches and many other things, our warm climate. If we were to move to, say, Colorado, something that makes that special is the mountains. Every place has something that makes it unique. When we ask the question of places and regions, that's what we're trying to find out. We also look at physical systems. How do natural systems shape Earth's surface? Now, a natural system could be anything from a river to mountains, erosion. It could be glaciers receding or coming. It could be any number of things that change the way that Earth's surface looks. We also look at human systems. How have people shaped our world? One of the things that humans are great at is changing our environment. So when I'm digging in my backyard, I might fix the soil to make my grass grow better. I might add some fertilizer for my vegetables. I'm also building a house where there was no house before. So in everything that we do, humans shape and change our world, whether it's using a certain animal for food or using up all of the resources in a certain area. We also have to ask about environment and society. How does the relationship between people and our surroundings influence our lifestyle? Think back to the bell work question you had at the very beginning of these notes. One of the things that you talked about is the fact that you might dress differently for a winter here in Florida than you would up north because we have a different climate. We're closer to the equator, and so we're closer to the sun. Because of this, the lifestyle that we lead is very different. Kids here in Florida might go to the beach for their summer vacation, but if you didn't live near a beach, you might be going out and playing in your backyard or going to a natural park or going on the river instead. So the lifestyle that we live is influenced by the surroundings. That also is true of food. For example, we eat a lot of seafood here in Florida because it's fresh and local. But if we lived in the middle of our country, say Nebraska, there's not a whole lot of fresh seafood there. They have to ship it in. So it's either more expensive, not as fresh, or both. Because of that, our lifestyle is directly influenced just by our natural surroundings.
Hey guys, welcome back. This is Mr. Green. I'm going to talk to you guys a little bit about population and culture. Now, when historians study history, something that they're mainly interested in is people. Size of people, numbers of people, movements of people, and how people have been changed by their environments, or how they've gone on to become a product of their environment, or how they have taken things from their environment and moved it other places, a trading of goods, experiences, and knowledge, and passing of knowledge, and stuff like that from people to people all across the world. So, first thing you got to understand is population. When we're talking about population, this means how many people live in a specific place. The movement of people to settle to another place, that is called migration. So if a group of people ended up starting in Africa and then possibly moving to Europe, like a large amount of people are moving from Africa to Europe, that is a migration. That is completely different than just going to the store. All right, this is a migration. It's a large group of people who move from place to place. So that would change the population of the world. Now, next, culture is something completely different. So the people that are moving from these places to place, they're starting to change a little bit themselves, or they're starting to pick up habits, they're starting to pick up beliefs, practices. This is all called culture. Their culture might change depending on where they're living, because of different living environments, because of different factors, different things that they'd have to do to survive even. So culture, if we're looking at the definition, the culture is a set of beliefs, behaviors, and traits shared by members of a group. That is what culture is. So, for instance, the culture of citizens of the United States are going to be slightly different, probably heavily different, than if it was a large group of people living in Greenland or Africa or India. Because we live in different areas of the world, we have different resources to assist us. We have different other people that we come in contact with. We have different means of getting our resources. We have just a lot of differences. So that is part of our culture. Our culture is going to be a little bit different from others around the world. So that's what a culture is all about. Now, what happens when people move from place to place? That is something you're going to need to know this year. You're going to have to remember these words. And it's very, 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 very important. So please do me a favor. I want you guys to do me a favor. I'm going to try to, I like purple. Purple is my daughter's favorite color, so I'm going to use purple. So I'm going to use purple. This is a very, very important note. Important. I want you to please either put a star next to this, put a lot of stars, put a circle, whatever. I don't care what you do. Just do it. You're going to need to remember cultural diffusion is very, 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 very important. This means this is the spread of goods and ideas from place to place through meeting of different cultures through exploration, migration, and trade. What does that mean? Let's break it down a little bit. I'm going to slow down. Cultural diffusion is when two different groups of people, or more, not just more than one, groups of people interact. And they trade ideas. They trade experiences. For example, let's say, you know how you guys used to have the little spinner things before we banned them? The spinners, let's say it was just a Passetti Bay thing, all right? Let's say it was just a Passetti Bay thing. One of you guys goes to New Jersey to visit your family members. You tell your cousin up there about these spinny things, and they're like, what is that? And you're like, it's totally cool, and it spins, and we get to play with it. Then that person, they might start buying it at the store, and then they'll tell their friends about it, and then it'll blow up in New Jersey, and then it'll blow up all the way in the East Coast and Northeast. And it becomes like a worldwide thing because you brought it up there on your family vacation. That's cultural diffusion. It's a small example of cultural diffusion, but it's an example. It's when you bring something to another part of the world and your habit, your traits, your behavior, your culture, whatever, rubs off on someone else. And then they take it and then they bring it to their friends and so forth. It starts blowing up around the world. That is called cultural diffusion. And that's a very, very important concept that we're going to come back to many times this year. I want to make sure you guys put a star, circle it, whatever you got to do. Make sure you remember this concept. If you don't remember anything else this year, cultural diffusion is important to world history. All right, guys. I'm done babbling. I'll see you later.